Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, 5 Ways to Disrupt Your Market with the Perfect Operations Team with MAPS coaches Monica Reynolds and Nicole Zuber. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available within 24 hours on the MAPS Group YouTube channel. You may access the YouTube channel from your Zoom confirmation email, and we will share the link in the chat momentarily. Currently, everyone is on mute. We do value group participation, so we ask that if you have questions for your coaches, please type them into the chat box located in the taskbar at the bottom of your screen. Your questions will be addressed by your coaches throughout the webinar. Following the meeting, if you have any questions about today's call or coaching programs, please email us at fasttrack, FASTTRACK, @kw.com. That's all for me. Monica, Nicole, take it away.
All right. And welcome, everyone. I'm Monica Reynolds. I'm VP of MAPS. And of course, this is my one thing. I love assistance and building teams. And I've got the great Nicole Zuber, who is an executive coach in MAPS and also a very, very strong person who helped build the DOO program, Director of Operations at KWRI. Welcome, Nicole. Welcome, everyone. So let's get started here. And so the screen you're going to see, of course, is the 5 ways to disrupt your market with the Perfect Operations Team. So let's go to the next slide. And here's what I want to share with you. So why do you want to disrupt your market? And what does that really mean? And what does this Perfect Operations Team look like? So, I was talking to Nicole earlier and I said, you want to disrupt your market with clients, agents, and staff. So when you have the best systems and you have the client experiences and customer service that is over the top. And we use the MMFI. Remember, we're Keller Williams acronyms, right? Make me feel important. MMFI, make me feel important. And that client is your client for life. And they go forth into the world and tell everyone how great you are. That's a disruptor. When that one client tells everyone that you're the best. That one client is repeat. That one client refers you one listing or one buyer every single year. That's disruptive. You're not allowing Zillow or any other agent to take that client. That's disruptive. Agents, hiring the best agents and attracting the best agents because you have systems, you have models you follow, you have ways to increase their net worth, you have ways to pour into them that they are to be a great agent is to have, of course, a great successes in production, and yet helping them, build wealth. And so be a wealth builder for them and creating that community. And so the other person, the most important people, sometimes, in my opinion, and probably yours, is who makes all the trains run. And that's the staff. And so when you have a great team, you have a director of operations, you have a transaction coordinator, you have a listing manager, they will attract other great people. And when you have someone on your staff that I call the puppy, now just remember, everybody loves this person. They're so great. They're so sweet, but they're not really producing or on top of things as they should be, or things fall through the cracks or something got dropped. Oh, but they're so sweet. They're so great. But they're not the right team. And so when you have the right staff, you have the right agents, you have the right clients, you are the disruptor. And the right clients is that they understand and they are appreciative of what you have done for them. And they bring you clients and they become repeat. They become clients that will never leave you. They speak so highly of you to anyone who has a conversation about real estate, which is all the time. Okay, so let's look at this. So the who is going to be a listing manager, a TC, a director of operations. Let's go to the next slide. So on this particular slide, the roles of the operations team. Now, this is merely a blueprint, okay? And so to be disruptive, you have to have clearly defined roles. And so in our class that we do a training on, this is just a very small amount of what this person is doing. But just for purposes of time, I'm just going to go through these pretty quickly. So the listing manager is not the same personality style and the same KPA, which is a Keller personality assessment, or the DISC, as a director of operations. The TC is not the same personality style or the KPA of a listing manager that we've discovered, and we can share that with you. So a listing manager obviously activates the listings, marketing, price improvements if they're licensed, seller updates, compliance paperwork, agent updates, getting reviews and referrals. Now that's it in a nutshell. It could be pre-list package, it could be confirming appointments, it's a whole bunch of other stuff. But that's a very defined role. I'm not a coach that says, and I've coached more than anyone probably in the country in real estate, that is not a role that you have someone be a contract to close person. And I respect those people that do it successfully. I've never been able to do it successfully on my team because the listing manager is a totally different role than a TC. TC, I want that high C. I want someone who can cross the T's, dot the I's. I'm a triple D. I make a mess out of every piece of paperwork that I ever touch, and yet I want it done perfectly. I'm sure some of you can identify with that, right? So what's a TC manager, transaction manager? They track the deadlines. They own those deadlines, right? They coordinate all the transaction processes, the compliance paperwork, buyer and seller updates, agent updates, negotiate repairs only if they're licensed. They write, offer back and forth addendums, corrections, whatever, if they're licensed, reviews and referrals. And yet that person is the icing on the cake. They're the dessert. This is where the relationship continues if we do the TC part right. The listing manager builds that trust bridge, builds that relationship, and then the TC takes it from there. Now, I'm going to let Nicole, who is the expert on director of operations, to share a glimpse of what a director of operations does.
Hey, if you want it triple D style, Monica, they're the Swiss Army knife of the team.
Yeah, really.
The doer of all things. So thank you for that. So in a nutshell, the director of operations, they do it all. They're in charge of recruiting, onboarding, training, offboarding, accountability and tracking. Accountability, we teach you how to do the 411 and how to build the GPS for your operation, how it rolls into a 411 that could lead into your weekly conversations with your transaction coordinator, your listing manager, and some DOOs do have team members reporting to them from the sales side. Just, it depends. They oversee the marketing. They oversee and strategically move towards the P&L and make decisions collaboratively with their rainmaker there. They oversee and implement systems, improve systems with the market of the moment, and oversee the TC team. And they do back up the listing manager and TC. One thing that Monica said earlier is, yeah, different profiles for a listing manager than there is a transaction coordinator, than there is a director of operations. And at the end of the day, we're on a team. That doesn't mean that you can't cover a file for a week or so if somebody is on vacation or gets sick, if you're a TC that take over the listing manager. We're a team, we work together, and we should cross-train in that regard. And they oversee the team meetings. That's so Swiss Army knife. That's how I'd say it, Monica.
Okay, good. So I want you to hear this loud and clear when you talk about disruptive. When you have a defined team with defined expectations in a 30, 60, 90 for each of these, which we provide in the class, and we go through that in a defined job description, and everyone knows their role. They know the lane on the highway that they stay in. The director of operations has to be versatile. They'll sit in the seat of the listing manager, the TC, when things explode, which we all hope it happen, lots of business, right? Or when someone is on vacation or someone needs to take a family leave, whatever, right? So I want you to hear this loud and clear. One of the most disruptive things you can do is have a clearly defined team where the customer then receives incredible customer experience, incredible customer service, and that they want to repeat that experience again. They know that you guys are the professionals and that you care. Constant and never ending is also another thing that we talk about CANI, and that is you're always improving these systems. The director of operations owns all of that. The TC owns all of that. The listing manager owns all of that. And it's their job too, to make duplicatable and scalable systems that grow with the business. That's highly, highly disruptive. All right, the next slide is we're going to talk about the why, the who matters. Okay, So these are just broad: repeat, referral, retention, recruiting, database, building an empire. The who really, really matters. And one of the things that I've discovered is that we do not do a good job as agents in communicating what our expectations are and why it matters to grow the business. It's not about income. It's about changing lives. And of course, income's always a good thing, right? Of course you want that. But what I'm getting at is we want to build a team where, helping people with the American dream, buying and selling real estate, helping your team members to have the life by design that they're looking for, to help them build wealth. And so when the who matters is that everybody's on board for repeat and referral business. The scripts are there, the accountability is there. Retention. Now, retention, what do we mean by that? Well, retention of the client, right? Retention of the staff. When the turnover is huge, then there's something wrong. When you're losing agents on your team, when you're losing staff on your team. Recruiting, everyone is on board for that. Database, everyone is on board for that. And building the empire to change lives, everyone should be on board for that. So the who matters that they all get that. Is there anything else you would add to that, Ms. Nicole?
No, you absolutely nailed that. The who.
Okay, so let's go to data bank. This is where everybody has to own this too, but this is disruptive if you do this right.
Yep.
Okay, let's go to data bank.
So data bank. Thank you. So one more slide, right? All right, there we go. So the laws of the MREA are right there on the left. You guys, the database is the brick and mortar of any real estate business. And you in the operation and on the administrative side, you are the protector of that. And guess what? Your systems also help grow that database. It's about the relationships like Monica was just talking about. It's the relationships with your team members. It's the relationships with the clients, and it's the relationships with the cooperative broker on the other end. And we really teach you that in through our course. And that's how you are disruptive, when your systems support the relationship. So when we're talking database, I want you to think about systems that cause the nurture of a relationship. So you're going to want to build it. You want to feed it every day, communicate it with it systematically. Now that's our job, and service the leads that come our way. So if you are a director of operations, maybe you have an ISA team, maybe you don't, maybe you work with a one side by side with a rainmaker and another administrator. Doesn't matter your size, the database is everything there. So there's a mathematical equation here, and that you can do to get to 1 million, right, Monica? Is that where the three comes in? So to increase the database by 1 million of three new people per day, or 60 a month, with name, address, telephone number, and email address. We just gave you a system, y'all. Name, address, telephone number, email address. And then we structure and organize it by team. So tags, if you will, vendor, the sphere of influence, or client for life. Fact of the matter is, these people know us, they like us, they trust us. And then that percentage that comes from let me ask you this, what percentage from that database do you think it should be to get to 1 million? Anybody know from MREA? What percentage of your database? Got 10%?
20%?
1%? Well, so we're going to move on to the next slide, because when you know your numbers, you'll know what that number should be. And we're going to teach you that. And so 12 in MREA, it's 12-2, right? And we know that clearly 10% of the people who know us, like us, trust us, that are plugged in to a system that is strategic, consistent, and effective, that nurture the relationship, you'll probably get 10% ROI. That's what you should be getting. So, miss anything there, Monica?
No. And so I wanted to start with database. And now I want to I go back to the slide before that. The database is your most important. And if I was going to come to your office, and Nicole, and we were to critique your systems, to be disruptive. How would you rate your database on a 1 to 10? How many completes do you have? How many of you can tell me how many completes you have in your database? Say yes or no. And that complete is name, address, phone number, and emails. Tell me how many completes you don't need to tell me how many, just say yes or no. Interactive here, get on the chat box, say yes or no, that you know exactly how many in your database today, the exact number of completes. Okay, we have kind of some yeses here. All right, here comes the no's. Here comes the no's. Okay, so if I said to you, this is your most important asset that you needed to look at each day, we train the director of operations to understand that at the highest level. That database is your only asset. It's not your Louis Vuitton bag. It's not your car. It's none of that. It's this, the database. And so I wanted you to hear that first. And then when we look at these foundational systems, so everybody understands the database, the listing manager, they understand the TC, how important it is to get everything correct.
I'm not trying to get it.
Okay, so let's mute that now. Thank you. Okay, we want to make sure that we absolutely get everything correct in that database. Name, address, phone number, and email. Not just the wives, the husband and the wives. All the decision makers are in there complete and perfect. Now, when you look at the rest of this, when you have a listing system, when a seller, when the front door shuts, agents, the front door shuts and you leave from a listing, they're going, I hope we did the right thing. I think we did the right thing. Did we do the right thing? I don't know. Let's just see. That's when the trust bridge gets built. That's when your assistant calls and says, thank you so much for working with our team. You know, Monica asked that I call you. I'd like to introduce myself. Do you have a couple of minutes? We're so excited to help you. Congratulations on your promotion. You're moving to Chicago, blah, blah, blah. So we teach the assistant now, the listing manager, to do all of those things that start to build that trust bridge. The pendings, that's the TC. Now, how is your systems? If I came into your office on a 1 to 10, would you have to scramble and put some together? Do you have the right emails going out? Do you have the right scripts for the assistant? Are you able to get the repairs? If your assistant's licensed, is he negotiating those that we show the seller that we're on their side? If we're representing the buyer, does it show the buyer that we're on their side? Repeat and referral business. What is your systems for that? What percentage are you getting? How do we get you more? And this is what clearly, you know, when you join the Perfect Operations team, we're building this hub so that you can be disruptive. You can be disruptive when you have the right people, the right systems, the right people on the job, the agents, you track the right agents, and most importantly, you have those clients for life. Now, when you saw clients for life, that used to be past clients, but we're kind of moving away from past clients because it's like past means dead to some of us. So we're going clients for life, right? And onboard, offboard procedures so that when you're onboarding someone, they are so excited about, you know, being part of the team. And then offboarding, you're keeping that handshake going. Thank you, you know, appreciate your decision. You know, if you ever need us in the future, let us know. You want to keep that relationship. And we talk about that in culture. The hub, the listing manager, the TC, and the director of operations, they are critical to the culture. They are the culture per Gary Keller and Monica Reynolds and Nicole. They are the culture. Okay, so how would you rate yourself on all those systems? Are they defined? Are they bringing in the past clients? Are you at 35% repeat and referral? There's your goal. You want that. You want that. 10% is great, but why not get 35% repeat and referral? All right, so let's go to the next slide, Ice. There you go. Take it away, Nicole.
So customer experience. Well, one of the best things about scaling things is when you scale a business, you could be intentional about it. Your DNA could go into it as well. And what better way to scale a client experience than having fun with it while you're being intentional? So through the 36 touch you'll see here, this is a little snippet of how you can scale it. And we teach you that in the course. We go a little bit deeper and collaborate and brainstorm. Is you want to get your team to think, act, and do and care like you do. So with that, it ends up being a 5-star service, that delivers 5-star communication. Now, when we go to the 36 touch, and keep in mind, 36 touch is simply the system. You might have a 52 touch, or you don't want to go less than 36 though. We know the statistics there. And so 36 touch could be something as a monthly video. You do that in an entire year. There's 12 touches right out of the gates, sending a postcard to your database, the Met database. Oh, there's another 12. And what if you did a client appreciation event once a quarter? Well, there's another 4. And guess what? We don't just have the event without telling people about it. You got to give them save the dates, another touch. The actual invitation, another touch. A team call night. Hey, wanted to make sure you got the information for our shred party. Who else do you know that's thinking of buying or selling? We could also invite, or give a pumpkin pie to, or invite to the movies, whatever that item of value is. So when you can scale your business, and we're going to call this 36 touch the system, might be 52 plus. I just gave you a couple snippets on how to get to 36 like that and plan it out a year in advance. So with that, then it turns over to the transaction coordinators, listing managers, and directors of operation. So say we already have an event once a quarter, and now we're going to onboard a file. We're onboarding the file, and we're talking about the expectations there. And then we also invite them to the event, and then hang up the phones. Before we hang up the phone, who else do you know thinking of buying or selling? You close a deal 100, say you close 100 units or 50 units, and your scaled system is to invite them to a quarterly event. That's at least 50 times. That's on the onboard. What if we also had that item of value at close? That's 100 asks that you would. You think you might fall into a referral there? Say yes. It's a numbers game. So I missed anything on that, Monica, regarding the client experience?
What I wanted to share, I put in the chat box, how many client appreciation parties are you having? Now, Nicole and I coach some of the top producers. Now, what we train is that you should not spend a nickel on client appreciation parties. You get your vendors involved. I know RESPA, I get it, okay? The second thing is that I would share with you is that we have clients, and I have 2 clients right now, and we teach this, is that if you have 300 people come and pick up a pie, you will have 20% of them give you a referral with here's your tip real fast. Everyone signs in. And then at the bottom is, do you know anyone thinking about buying or selling? You fill that out. You get an Amazon gift card, or you get a bottle of wine, at Thanksgiving time. And people literally, they would, out of 300 people, I've got 2 situations, true story, and they get at least 60 referrals. How does that pay for that director of operations for the rest of the year? But these are the ways we strategically teach each one of these people on the call. So each person is going to learn how to think strategically. And so you have a client appreciation party. Why aren't we maximizing that? And yeah, give them a gift. And it's so important to really think, like, how do we take this customer experience and charge? No, we're not going to spend any money. And yet, what are some of the things, from photos with Santa to shredding parties to where you're hiring shredding truck? Not you, your title company or your lender will pay for that. And people bring their documents in May after tax time in April to get rid of documents, and they drive up, and you can have your parking lot open. You have popcorn, from one home warranty person, and drinks or Cokes and things like that, and candy for the kids, whatever, hot dogs. I mean, you can make it fun. You can make it an experience. And when you have those face-to-faces, that's how you build loyalty. That's disruptive. So I appreciate some of you are doing too. What if you did one a quarter strategically? What if you had one of your assistants knew exactly how to do that? And what are the steps, 2 months out, 7 weeks, 6 weeks, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's very systematic. Remember, you're going to press the easy button. Somebody else is going to get this all organized for you. And that's disruptive. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So when it comes to this, I want to just share with you that's really important is that when you're looking at the 7 most important points when hiring, you've got to have a budget. Does it support another hire or a hire? And where are you in that? And you got to know your numbers. So, I'll start gradually and then we'll zoom into it. So just hypothetically, these are just things that I've learned over the years and Nicole's learned over the years, 30 to 40 Transactions closed, you're going to hire your first assistant. 40 to 75, you're going to hire your second assistant. Maybe they're part-time for a while. By the time you get to 100, you need 2 full-time assistants. When you're doing 200 transactions, 4 full-time assistants. And yet you can have a junior TC, you can have a junior listing manager, depending on where your business is going from there. And yet, please hear this, when you go to 300, you don't need 6. You can possibly get away with 4.5. When you build duplicatable and scalable systems, does that mean you hire an outside, very part-time person to do social media? Sure, you can do that. So, you want to make sure that your training program is in place with standards and quantifiable expectations for each role. So in this program, the Perfect Operations Team that starts next month, this is for building a hub. And so just not to confuse people, the perfect real estate assistant is when you have 1 assistant or 2, and you want to put the systems in place. And so that Perfect Operations Team is starting next week. And that's for, if you don't have an assistant, you have 1, you're hiring your second, that program's for you. This program is when you are expanding your business and you need to build this hub. And so having the right people in the seat of the job. And as we know, sometimes we'll put someone in a director of operations job that should not be there, or they were not qualified. This will help you. But what's great about the Perfect Operations Team is that I want the buyer agents on the call. I want the listing agents on the call. I want the ISAs on the call. I want the Rainmaker, the assistants all on the call. So it's for everyone, because everyone should know how important those 3 roles are and what those jobs are, so that everybody's really, really clear about the systems and the hub. It is the business is the hub. All right. And that's how you grow to 300, 600, 900, 1,200 transactions, 1,000, 2,000, whatever. And you got to have a 30, 60, 90-day plan. And so each one of these roles, there is a 30-day bench and a 60 and a 90-day. And ultimately, the director of operations, of course, is in charge of monitoring all of those for the listing manager and TC. When you look at your team growing, this class answers all of those roles, gives you a very clear picture, and yet we teach each one of those roles how to pay for themselves, how to be a profit center, how a listing manager gets 1 referral from every single client, how a TC gets 1 referral, 1 review from every single client. So it's a game changer. So Nicole, take 6 and 7.
All right. So having a game plan is everything. You keep hearing us talk about scale. You hear us talk about documenting things. We're going to teach you how to do that. GPS is the 1 goal, the 3 priorities, and the 5 strategies that will cause that goal to happen. Every department needs one, especially the operation department. And then obviously we have to spend time and commit to the time that's necessary to set your people up for success. In this course, we go 6 weeks of transaction coordinator and all those things, GPS, 30, 60, 90, 411, growth plan, same thing with the listing manager, and the same 6 weeks with the director of operations. We got it. So next slide, unless I missed anything there, Monica.
No. So I'm going to answer some questions about the client appreciation party. I saw some in the chat. If you have any questions in the chat, you got 2 free coaches here right now to help you. So the launch is April 7th, and we use a Zoom call, and then everybody is shown on the Zoom call. So we like screens on. We call on people. We have homework assignments, and you end up with an operations manual, probably 400 pages of that. The calls are 3 per month. They're 1 hour long. They're live calls. And so if you're thinking of expanding your team and your team is growing, again, it's for everyone on your team. How great is it for a buyer agent to really understand what the TC does? How great for them to understand what the director of operations will be doing, and it does. And yet really understanding how valuable that listing manager is. Everybody has a piece in making the trains run. And so one of the things that I wanted to share was I noticed there, when you're building a client appreciation party, and I think just off the top of my head, I think Easter is April 17th. Okay, here's the good news. you've got some time to plan it. The bad news is you don't have a lot of time, so it starts today. So if you're planning a client appreciation party, you usually start at least 2 months out to 90 days out. So right now you need to write down all the things that are going to happen at that party. What do you want to have happen at that party? Give me the client experience. Write it down today, what that experience is like. Okay. So you start with the end result. Now you go back and say, okay, so we need to tell people today to mark their calendar. This is our event. We need to get a hold of our vendors today and get their commitments, what they're going to do to participate. So you take each one of those items. So if you're going to serve, this and this and this at it, or you're going to have this and this and this that you're providing, who can you delegate that to? Who can you leverage that to be responsible for that? So you've got at least 4.5 weeks right now, but this week is critical to lining up the who and what that event looks like and what you're going to need. And then obviously you send out as soon as possible, save the date this week. And then 2 weeks prior, you are getting people to reserve that they're coming. Okay. And then the next week after that, you're saying, okay, we're calling to remind you. And then the day before, you're sending out emails and you do as many calls as reminders to get them to come. So that's brief, but we have that all spelled out. So again, these are just systems that are plug and play. And so it's valuable to do that. All right.
And
any other questions that you see there, Nicole?
No, like these systems will cause you to be disruptive to the point of even getting here, right?
Yeah.
Being disruptive in the market.
So Carolyn, this Teapot 22, is it the same as 2021? The reason I say no is that we're constantly never ending improvement on the material. And the key thing is that it's like Bold. Carolyn, if you've gone to Bold, you hear one thing one time, the next time you go, God, I hear another thing. Gosh, I hear another thing. I hear another thing. Your learning level changes each time. So we always tell people to take the Perfect Real Estate class a couple of times. There's where the strong system foundations are. Then when you go to the Perfect Operations team, you're building your hub, and this is where we dive into it. So on the operations team, we give you systems on listings, and we give you systems on pendings, obviously, closing. And yet this is a deep dive, 6 calls on the listing, 6 calls on the pending, 6 calls on the director of operations. So those systems and who that person is and what they should be doing is totally different. So the answer is we update the material, and the answer also is you listen at a different level. So highly encourage you to come again. And if your assistants, you want to pour into them education. So when you say to your assistant, I want to give a gift to you, I want to help you grow in this job, which ultimately we grow together. And I am going to have you go to this class, and we're going to attend it together, and I hope that you would do that, because when you're both sitting there together and you're both listening to these things, what I hear as an agent goes, oh my gosh, that's exactly what we need to do. And then I find out the assistant says, wow, that wasn't the first thing I put down. I thought we should do this first. So each of you listen differently. So the agents, I know that you multitask all the time. So you come to it, you're going to hear something, go, that's what I want. The assistant might go, well, that wasn't the first thing that I thought that we should put into place. And again, we have homework assignments all the time. So encourage you to come again. Okay. All right. Anything else, Ms. Nicole?
Yeah, Alex asked how long is each call? Like Monica mentioned, it's 3 times a month for an hour, and it's a live collaborative coaching session and training session, if you will, going into each role. So hopefully that answers your question.
And then here's what else we found out. When we do homework assignments, we pick out the best one. So right now we asked this week for a growth plan. And so we're having the director of operations put together a growth plan and what that looks like for them. Well, who wouldn't want to pay for that, right? Or who wouldn't want to know about that? But we collaborate. And then sometimes we'll say, okay, give us, the latest letter that you have sending out for a just sold. So we collaborate. And so you're going to find out what everybody else is doing, and then we pick out the best one and share it. So we now have the top listing manager, the top TC, and the top director of operations. We have an interview with each one of those people also. So we'll pick out a listing manager. One time we did an interview that Scal was managing at least 30 new listings every single month and how she did it. She showed her systems. We have TCs that are sometimes doing 50 to 60 closings a month and more, and how they do it. So it's mind expanding when an assistant goes, oh, I'm so overwhelmed. We have like 8 pendings. No, you're not. That's part-time. And here's why it is. And so it's really exciting program when people come to share how they have been able to duplicate and scale their business and have great customer experience along the way. So it's really, really a great program, and highly recommend. Think about investing. We'd love to have you on the calls. They're live. We answer questions. We coach you. We also share with everyone. I'll say at the end of the call. So what's the best thing you got out of today's call that's going to make a difference for you? So if you want, I would love it if you put in the chat box, what'd you hear today? What was one thing you heard today that you need to work on? What's one thing that you heard today? Put it in the chat box before I let you go. So what did you hear today that's going to make a difference, or what are you going to go work on?
An aha or a commitment.
Clearly defined 36 touch. Oh, for sure. And yet each month should be, I'm in for the course. Okay, thanks, Jean. I appreciate that. So clearly defined 36 touch. Exactly. So it's the month of March. It's the month of April. And maybe it's an Easter egg thing or something that you're doing. Clear roles. Okay, 30, 60, 90. When hiring. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've got those built in there. Perfection. Clear roles for everyone, working on becoming an owner in each role of the operations team. Okay. And so being an owner of each role, that means you're the director of operations. And that's why, you know, Nicole mentioned you got to be able to sit in the seat of each one of those roles, because when people leave and come and go, you're the trainer. All right. Those are great ahas. I appreciate everyone. Well, thank you, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you on the call. I guarantee you, we will do a great job. You will leave with the perfect operations team manual for policies and procedures. Talk to you soon. Thanks for being on the call today. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye.